A lot of people move to Menifee because they want more house for their money. But the biggest question they usually have is whether the traffic trade-off is actually worth it. Welcome back to Love to Live in the Temecula Valley. I'm Catherine Materiali. A lot of people move to Menifee because they want more house for their money. But the biggest question they usually have is whether the traffic trade-off is actually worth it. And the answer really depends on your lifestyle. Because for some people, traffic in Menifee is barely even part of their day. And for other people, especially commuters, it's something they really need to think through before deciding where to live. So let's talk about the real answer when it comes to traffic in Menifee. Because people tend to oversimplify this conversation. They try to make it good traffic or bad traffic, when the reality is it depends heavily on your schedule, where you work, and how you move through the area. Now, if you work from home, traffic honestly becomes a pretty small issue overall, because you can choose when you're running errands, when you're heading out, and when you're driving around town. And that flexibility changes everything. But if you are commuting daily, especially using the 215 freeway, then yes, traffic is something you are going to need to factor into your decision. In the mornings, southbound on the 215 can get congested all the way from Newport down toward the 15-215 split. And in the evenings, northbound traffic tends to back up coming back from the 15 towards Scott Road or Newport Road. So if you're commuting to San Diego, that's definitely part of the reality. But this is also where the trade-off conversation comes in. Because compared to Murrieta and Temecula, Menifee often gives buyers access to newer homes, larger floor plans, and more affordability. And for a lot of people, especially remote workers, that trade-off makes complete sense. I've had several families relocate here from out of state or from LA, specifically because they work remotely and they want a beautiful, newer home in a great community. I had one woman move here from Pittsburgh into Banner Park by Pulte. She works from home and her daughter goes to school in LA. So for her, Menifee gave her a way to have a beautiful new home in an affordable community while still being within driving distance of her daughter. I've also had another family relocate from LA into Banner Park because he worked remotely as well. And because they aren't commuting daily, traffic really doesn't impact their lifestyle much at all. They mostly get to enjoy the benefits, newer neighborhoods, beautiful homes, and more space. Now, weekend traffic is a little different. You will notice more traffic on Fridays and weekends because people are heading toward Temecula for wineries, date nights, Old Town, shopping, and events. But just like the other cities in the area, understanding the side streets can make a huge difference. For example, if you live on the west side of the 215, you can often stay on the 15 and cut across using Railroad Canyon, going to areas like Audie Murphy and surrounding neighborhoods. Or you can use Bundy Canyon, which turns into Scott Road, and that gives you access to a lot of neighborhoods that way as well. On the east side of the freeway, roads like Antelope and Menifee Road help connect north and south while allowing you to access Newport or Scott more efficiently. And if you're trying to head toward the Promenade Mall, you don't necessarily need to jump on the 215. You can use Scott Road, go over to Winchester, and head down that way instead. So it's not necessarily about avoiding traffic completely. It's about understanding how to navigate the area in a way that feels easier and less stressful. And this is the kind of information that can make a huge difference when you're moving to a new area. That's actually one of the reasons I created my Temecula Valley Happenings with Catherine newsletter, because people moving here are often trying to figure out not just where to live, but what everyday life here actually looks like. So if you're researching the area, I'll put that below for you too. And if this kind of insight is helpful as you're researching the area, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you can get all of the updates we bring every week on what it's really like to live here. So Who is Menifee a really good fit for? If you work remotely, want a newer home, want more space for your money, and don't mind being a little farther north, Menifee can be an incredible option. But if you have a strict daily commute and already know traffic is something that stresses you out, that's something to seriously think through before deciding where to buy. Because the trade-off here is commute versus value. You're often getting significantly more home for your money in Menifee, but depending on where you work, that may come with more drive time. So if you're trying to figure out whether Menifee is the right fit for your lifestyle, the question isn't just how bad the traffic is. It's whether the overall lifestyle and value here makes sense for the kind of day-to-day life you want. And if you're thinking about making a move and want help figuring out what areas would actually make sense for your commute, your schedule, and your lifestyle, you can text or email me anytime. I'm happy to walk through it with you so you don't end up in the wrong spot. I would love to be your guide for all things Temecula Valley. We'll see you on the next video.